Broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studio, it's time for the GNFCC 400 Insider. Connect, build, and grow with the Greater North Fulton Chamber of Commerce.
Hello, and welcome to the GNFCC 400 Insider, the monthly radio show and podcast presented by the Greater North Fulton Chamber. I'm Kali Boatright, the President and CEO with the Greater North Fulton Chamber, and today we will be discussing all things Roswell. I'll be your host today, and I'm excited to introduce today's guest. Today we have Andy Williams, Executive Director of the Roswell Convention and Visitors Bureau. Welcome, Andy.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And also Steve Stroud, the Executive Director of Roswell, Inc. Steve, glad to have you.
Thanks, Kali. We're glad to be here.
We are super excited to talk about Roswell today. Roswell strives to be a vibrant riverside community, connecting strong neighborhoods, preserving our rich history, celebrating arts and culture, and cultivating the entrepreneurial spirit. We have several questions today for our panelists, and since I know both of these gentlemen, I know that not much time will go to waste. So why don't we start with telling a little bit about each of you? And Andy, you're newest here, so we're going to ask you to start maybe a little bit about your background, what led you to career path here at the CVB, and what you're doing now in your new role.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, like most people in the tourism industry, we kind of fell into it. But mine actually started in college. I was a pre-business major up at Young Harris, and I didn't really know how I got there. And as it turns out, my counselor in high school had signed me up to be pre-business. So I was in a bunch of macroeconomics, business law, microeconomics classes, and I wondered, why am I here? And after a little bit of conversation with my counselor at Young Harris, really kind of led me to discover the tourism industry through browsing through the course catalog. So I didn't know that even existed. And when I found that, which is a subset of recreation, I'm like, what is this, a T-ball coach? What exactly is involved in all this? But really just investigating a little bit more, I learned about the tourism side and destination marketing, and majored in tourism in college. I was lucky enough to get my first gig in the town of Madison, Georgia, which is a great town. Really cool things going on there. Did a lot there for about 4.5 years. Realized I needed to get some more sales experience under my belt. At that point, the City of Dunwoody had just incorporated, and their CVB was relatively new. So I joined their team as their first ever sales manager. So having the marketing and sales side under my belts when I really decided to get more into the nuts and bolts, get some event production experience under my belt, which led me to Destination South Meetings and Events, which is a full-scale event production and destination management company. But my heart was always on the tourism side. And we had always been drawn to Roswell. So when we learned that Dottie Etris was retiring, it was really, at that point, just 90 miles an hour, full steam ahead and going after that position. And luckily it worked out for me. So here I am, about 6.5 months in.
Well, luckily for all of us, we're excited to have you here. And I know obviously big shoes to fill with Dottie, having been there for so long, but
Sure.
I know you've done some great things in the short time you've been there and have big plans. So I know we'll be talking about that shortly. How about you, Steve? You've been here a couple minutes
days.
longer.
Yeah, a couple minutes maybe.
Yeah.
That's the new term.
That
couple
is,
minutes.
yes.
Lifetime resident. Excited I had the opportunity to grow up here. I was raised my family here. I had a business for 30 years. I was an entrepreneur involved with the chamber. Enjoy the business community, but then had a great opportunity to take it to the next level with economic development in the city of Roswell. And in 2012, we kicked off Roswell Business Alliance, that's now known as Roswell Inc. And we cultivate connecting community and building business. With that entrepreneurial spirit that started with Roswell King, we've got 5,800 businesses, and my job is pretty easy. It's easy to connect the businesses and help them do business. Our Chamber of Commerce is the Greater North Fulton Chamber of Commerce. I say that all the time, and that's important. We're not a chamber. Our role is to partner with Andy, and the best analogy I can use is our role at Roswell Inc. is to go find the property, go find the developer, go find the hotel flag, get that zone, get the CO, do a ribbon cutting, and turn it over to Andy at Visit Roswell and let him fill those rooms. That's our team, and that's the role we play. So it's exciting. My oldest graduated from fellowship here. I've got one that just graduated in May, and I've got one rising ninth grader. So I'm committed. I live in downtown Roswell. I'm out of the cul-de-sac. This is year one. I love it. It's all walkable, so it's a new community to me. It's learning and enjoying what we have. So it's an exciting time in Roswell, and I love having Andy in my office or in our office.
Well, it's great having both of you here, and obviously now you're walking the walk and talking the talk,
Yes.
having moved to downtown Canton, obviously. So that's all new, or
Yes.
Canton Street.
Canton
so that's
Street,
excited.
yep.
Last month on this same radio show, we interviewed millennials and talked a little bit about that generation and things they're interested in. And having unique experiences were a big part of that conversation, of course. They want to explore the community and share their stories with others, which is great for Roswell, right? Because
Sure.
you guys have so much to share. Have you seen an increase in the level of millennial engagement in Roswell?
Yeah, I think for us, it's really interesting because, millennials, they really want to participate in the local scene. They want to do things that are authentic to them. They want to, participate in things that they can't do elsewhere. But as a part of that, they want to be seen doing it. But then they also have this give back component. So they want to do good while they're actually in that community too. So, it really kind of motivates us and challenges us to, from the destination standpoint, ask that question: who are we? What are we going to be? What is that product that we're going to work to develop that allows the millennials to be able to experience things in the way they want to experience them, while having the opportunity to really impact the local community that they're in. And on that, at that point too, I want to say that the really cool thing about Roswell right now, and Steve, you can probably attest to this, is that we don't just pigeonhole ourselves by going after a particular audience or a particular demographic or age range or any of that. You go into Gate City and you can see a 55-year-old couple sitting there, empty nesters, having a beer, and then you see the tatted up dad with the stroller with the dog next to him, with the wife and kids. So it's a wide variety, but certainly people come into a destination and they want people to know that they're there. We like to joke that when they're doing the marketing for us, sharing things on Instagram and Facebook and talking about it, that organic marketing, they're doing our job for us. And there's no bigger compliment, to the Visit Roswell team, and certainly on the business side for Steve as well.
Absolutely. And I think, Callie, what we're seeing is, I call it the 55 and over that's refound their roots. They're empty nesters. They're much like myself, almost empty nesters. They're moving back into what we call the core of the city, whether it's Alpharetta or Roswell, but we're here today to talk about Roswell. But you're starting to see them out every day in this new sense of community. You pass them while they're exercising, or they're walking their dog, or they're just strolling down to have dinner or lunch. It becomes community. And again, I think, as Andy said, what we're seeing from the entrepreneurial side is we're seeing kids that graduated from Roswell come back and invest in Roswell, open their business, open their restaurant, live their dream back in their own community. And so that's very exciting. And there's a new sense of self-pride for Roswell. So it's exciting.
That local entrepreneurial spirit, I think, is
Huge.
really, really strong in all of North Fulton, really,
Sure.
but certainly in Roswell. And I see a lot of the same thing you're seeing. I happen to represent that remark, right? So
Sure.
I'm in that over 50 group that likes to go out and do stuff. And my son, who is 22 and living on his own, likes to go to the same places. So we joke around. He's like, "Oh Lord, I thought I got away." Right. And so, but it's an interesting
It is.
time
It's a good
because
thing.
really, it's really a good thing,
Right.
especially with the kinds of things that y'all are promoting. So the visitors who are coming in, Andy, directed to you, they're choosing to become really more immersed, as you mentioned, in the local culture and what's going on there. And sometimes they stay for a staycation, right? And I'm sure you're seeing some of that too. So maybe tell us about some of your signature events, the unique restaurants, and how the community really embraces their own city to do those staycations, not just the tourists, because you see plenty of that these days. So what would folks do as a staycation in Roswell?
I could talk about this thing all day long.
I know, and Steve's chomping at the bit
No,
too.
no,
So,
you're
well,
fine.
no,
It's
obviously.
all business.
Yeah, we are very lucky in Roswell. We and I joke, and I really, when I sit down with our team internally every single day, I'm like, you guys know how lucky we are. I mean, we get to sell the city of Roswell, promote the city of Roswell every single day. And I'm telling you, there are communities throughout the state of Georgia and the Southeast and throughout the country who wish they had 20% of the assets that Roswell possesses. So we're in a very good situation. And a lot of communities that don't have a particular product, you hear a lot of the term placemaking. They create, they build, they sit down at the table and they figure out what that plan is going to be, and they create the product so that if you build it, they will come. And I think about that too from the development side, and from the tourism product side. And I say to myself, though, we have one of the strongest restaurant scenes in the metro Atlanta area. We've got 7 miles of the Chattahoochee River. You've got the history with the historic homes that go back into the antebellum days, the 1800s. You've got the mill, which was essentially, an economic driver for the state of Georgia, that really put Roswell on the map, obviously, going back to our founding days. You've got an incredibly healthy craft brewery scene.